The clinking of cutlery filled the long oak table, mixed with laughter that didn't quite reach everyone's eyes. The scent of roasted turkey and cinnamon candles lingered in the air, the kind of cozy warmth that hides cracks underneath. I smiled when my aunt passed me the mashed potatoes, pretending not to notice my uncle staring at me across the table. His voice, smooth with the smugness only whiskey and self-importance can give, broke the quiet hum. Hope that $1,441 monthly helped you, Olivia. The room went still. Forks froze halfway to lips. My mom blinked, confused. My dad shifted in his seat. And just like that, the air turned heavier than the snow outside. I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. Curiosity, pity, judgment. My fingers tightened around the stem of my wine glass, its cool surface grounding me as my chest burned. I managed a small, polite smile. "What did you just say, Uncle Robert?" He smirked. "You know, the money. Just glad it helped you get back on your feet." My jaw clenched, but my voice stayed calm. "Back on my feet?" He chuckled, oblivious. "Well, we all have to start somewhere, right?" I wanted to laugh, because if only they knew where I'd started, and how far I'd come. But instead, I just swirled my wine, watching the deep red circle the glass. That number, $1,441, was supposed to buy my silence, I thought. 2 years earlier, Christmas looked very different. Back then, my apartment was barely holding itself together. Thin walls, flickering heater, and a window that wouldn't quite close, no matter how many towels I stuffed into the frame. I'd just lost my marketing job when the company downsized. Rent was late. My fridge had a half-empty bottle of orange juice and an expired carton of milk. I remember sitting on the floor, scrolling through job listings until my vision blurred. My hands trembled as I reread the message from Uncle Robert. "I'll help you out, $1,441 a month until you're stable. Just keep me updated on what you're doing, okay?" At the time, it felt like a lifeline. I was desperate enough to ignore the fine print, the one written in guilt and humiliation. Every month, that money came with strings. Questions disguised as concern. "Still unemployed? Maybe, if you hadn't chosen communications. Are you even trying, Olivia?" Each message chipped away at me until I started dreading the payment more than the bills. My mother didn't know. She only saw that I was managing and thanked my uncle at every family dinner. And I said nothing, because part of me believed I owed him for every dollar that kept the lights on. Then one night, while cleaning my desk, I found a folded note tucked between old papers, written in my grandmother's faded cursive. She had passed a few years earlier, but I could still hear her voice in those words. "Real help doesn't keep receipts, sweetheart. If it does, it's not help. It's control." That night, I sat under the weak light of my lamp and made a decision. I transferred the entire $1,441 into a savings account labeled Start Over. I would use it once, not to survive but to rebuild. The next morning, I canceled the monthly transfer and texted Uncle Robert a simple message. "Thank you. I won't be needing more." His reply came in seconds. "Don't be dramatic, Olivia. You'll come around when it gets hard." But he was wrong. Because that morning, with nothing left to lose and one note to guide me, I finally understood something. Pride doesn't pay bills, but it can build an empire if you let it. The first few months after I cut the cord were brutal. No backup plan, no safety net, just me, a secondhand laptop, and a promise to my grandmother that I'd make something of myself. I started small, freelancing for anyone who'd take a chance. I wrote product descriptions for $10 a piece, social media captions for small boutiques, and cold emailed startups until my fingers cramped. Every no felt heavier than the last. But then one message changed everything. Her name was Margaret Lane, founder of a women-led marketing agency in Boston. She'd read a blog post I'd written about surviving unemployment with dignity. "You write with honesty," her message said. "Come work with me. Let's see what you can do." Margaret became more than a boss. She was a mentor, a woman who understood what it meant to start over with nothing but grit. She didn't sugarcoat things. She taught me how to price my work, how to say no without guilt, and how to hold my ground in meetings full of men twice my age who called me sweetheart instead of strategist. There were nights when I'd stare at my laptop until dawn, editing campaigns until my eyes ached. But then the results started to show: clicks, sales, recognition. Margaret trusted me with bigger clients. I found my rhythm. By the end of that year, I wasn't scraping by anymore. I was saving, investing, building. I launched my own digital marketing firm, Hayes Creative Solutions, named after my grandmother, whose note still sat taped to my desk. It started as a one-woman operation from my living room. Within a year, it had grown into a small team and a steady list of clients, including one major account that changed everything, a retail brand owned by my uncle's business rival. That deal made me more in a single quarter than his help ever could have. But I never bragged. Not once. At family gatherings, I kept my answers simple. Work's good. Busy as always. Just keeping up with clients. I didn't post luxury vacations or office photos online. I let people assume I was just getting by. Because sometimes silence is the sweetest armor. Still, I'll never forget the first time I paid for something without checking my balance. A coffee, $3.40. I swiped my card and smiled like it was a crown. From that moment, I promised myself I would never let anyone measure my worth in dollars again. And maybe that's why I kept the number $1,441 written in my planner, not as a reminder of debt, but of the price it took to learn independence. By the time the next Christmas came around, I wasn't the girl who needed saving. I was the woman who built something from ashes, and I was ready for whatever storm came next. The room still felt heavy after Uncle Robert's smug little jab. I could hear the faint buzz of the fireplace and the ticking of the old wall clock, every second stretching into a century. My aunt cleared her throat and tried to change the subject, but it was too late. Everyone was watching me. I set my wine glass down, letting the stem click against the table. You said something about $1,441 a month? He leaned back, smirking like a man who'd just reminded the world of his generosity. Well, yes. I mean, I helped you when you were down. I think it's fair to acknowledge that.
Fair.
That word hit me like an insult dressed in manners. I met his eyes, calm and unflinching. You're right. You did send me that money. But I guess you never wondered what I did with it. He laughed lightly. I assumed it kept you afloat. Rent, groceries, maybe a new phone. I could feel everyone's curiosity thickening the air. Even my mom looked uneasy now. I leaned forward, my voice steady, almost gentle. Actually, I didn't spend a cent of it. His eyebrows twitched. What? I saved every dollar. And I used it to register my own company, Hayes Creative Solutions. He blinked, confused. My cousin whispered something under her breath. I continued, keeping my tone smooth but precise, the way I learned in boardrooms. I built it from scratch. We started small, freelance campaigns, online branding, digital strategy. Last year, we handled marketing for over 20 national clients. He shifted uncomfortably. Oh, well, good for you. But I wasn't finished. Your company, Preston and Company, right? Recently lost a major client to us. His face froze. They said our team understood their vision better. I smiled softly. So, I suppose that $1,441 was a great investment, just not the way you expected. The table went silent. My dad stared at his plate. My mom's eyes glistened, half pride, half disbelief. Uncle Robert cleared his throat, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. Well, I had no idea you were doing that well. I know, I said. You never ask. I stood, smoothing down my cream-colored sweater, the soft fabric brushing against my wrist where my grandmother's old bracelet gleamed under the lights. You wanted me to stay grateful, Robert. But I didn't need saving. I needed space to prove myself, and maybe that's something you'll understand one day. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. So I kept going, softly but firmly. Money can build comfort, but respect? That you have to earn. And I think I finally did. For a moment, the only sound was the faint pop from the fireplace. Then my aunt, bless her, started clapping softly, like she was testing the air. My cousin joined in. Then another. It wasn't loud applause, it was something deeper. Recognition. Uncle Robert sat there, jaw tight, staring into his untouched glass of bourbon. I turned to my mother and kissed her cheek. "Don't worry," I whispered. "We're good. I'm good." As I walked to the window, the reflection of the Christmas tree lights flickered across the glass. Gold, red, silver. I caught my own reflection there too. The same woman who'd once cried over unpaid bills, now standing tall in silence. Funny, I thought. He thought $1,441 was charity. Turns out it was just change. After that night, things in my family didn't go back to normal. They couldn't. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages, some awkward, some heartfelt. My cousin Grace texted first. "I had no idea you were doing so well. I'm proud of you." My mother called later, her voice soft and shaky. "Honey, you could have told us. We just wanted to help." I almost laughed. "Mom, you raised me to stand on my own 2 feet. I just took that seriously." Even Uncle Robert reached out, a polite but careful message. "Didn't mean to offend you last night. Maybe we could talk business sometime." Business. The irony almost made me smile. When he finally called, I agreed to meet, not at his office, but at mine. He showed up in a charcoal suit, carrying his old confidence like armor. But I could see the nerves in his eyes as he stepped into my glass-walled office overlooking downtown Boston. He looked around, the minimalist furniture, framed awards, and quiet hum of my team working beyond the frosted glass. My grandmother's note sat framed on the shelf behind my desk. "Real help doesn't keep receipts." He cleared his throat. "You've done well for yourself, Olivia." "I have," I said. And I learned a lot from that time, especially about how help should really work. He shifted, unsure where this was going. "Look, I want us to move past any misunderstandings. Maybe we can collaborate. Preston and company could use a fresh perspective." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my legs, the faint scent of espresso filling the air. "Collaboration sounds fine. But if we do this, there are conditions." He frowned slightly. "Conditions?" "Yes," I said calmly. "3, actually." I held up a finger. 1. You treat every person who works for you with respect. No condescension, no patronizing help. Second finger. 2. When you offer help, you mean it. No strings, no reminders, no keeping score. Third. And 3. You stop underestimating people, especially women who are trying to make it. Because sometimes, the person you think needs saving might just be the one who ends up saving you. He swallowed hard, looking away for a moment before nodding. "Fair enough." I smiled. "This time actually is." We shook hands. His grip was firm, but his eyes carried something I'd never seen before: respect. Genuine, quiet respect. When he left, I sat back for a moment, letting the silence settle. No part of me wanted revenge. All I wanted was peace and the power to set my own terms. That, I realized, was what true success looked like. A week after that meeting, I found myself walking through the quiet streets of my neighborhood. Snow drifted softly from the gray sky, coating the world in a kind of forgiving calm. Christmas decorations still hung in shop windows, gold ribbons, pine wreaths, little signs that read "Peace on Earth." For the first time in years, I actually felt what those words meant. At home, my apartment glowed with soft light. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching the city hum below, car headlights moving like rivers of light. My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Dinner at our place Sunday? Robert's coming too. He wants to apologize properly." I smiled. 2 years ago, that text would have filled me with anxiety. Now it just felt peaceful. When Sunday came, the dinner was smaller, quieter. No grand gestures, no speeches, just family. Robert kept his promise. He didn't mention money once. Instead, he asked me about my team, my projects, even offered to connect me with a few of his clients. But this time, it didn't sound like control. It sounded like respect. After dessert, Mom pulled me aside and handed me a small box wrapped in silver paper. Inside was my grandmother's old locket, the one I hadn't seen since her funeral. "She wanted you to have it," Mom said, her voice trembling. "She always said you'd find your own way, no matter what." I opened the locket. Inside was a tiny folded slip of paper, yellowed with time. It read the same words I'd framed on my office shelf. "Real help doesn't keep receipts." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The weight of every struggle, every sleepless night, every doubt, it all melted into something softer. I hugged my mom, and for the first time in years, it didn't feel like I was proving anything. I was just home. Later that night, as I walked to my car, snowflakes gathered in my hair. I looked up at the stars, faint behind city light, and whispered, "Thank you, Grandma. You were right." I slipped the locket around my neck and smiled. $1 for 41 didn't build my life, I thought. It built my fire.